Please help me welcome Ray McGovern.
Thank you very much. Is this working okay? Can you hear me?
Great.
I'm reminded of a young priest friend of mine who was saying his first Mass, and he had a lot of things going for him. He was bright as could be, and he had a terrific sermon, and the congregation was wonderful. You know, those days it was forever and ever, amen. The Lord be with you, and also with you. When he got up to the podium or to the pulpit, he thought the microphone wasn't working, and he lost it. And he said, "There's something wrong with this damn thing." And also with you, was the immediate response. True story, true story. You know, I'm looking out at you, and I wish that each of you could be here, because you would be given the same kind of hope and encouragement that I have just looking at you. I'm reminded of how Walter Wink starts one of his books. I forget which one it is. But he talks about the secret advantage of social scientists, or socially conscious people. The secret, I guess, the hidden secret is what he calls it. And he says that, you know, although Jesus was famous for consorting with folks like us, not the distinguished religious authorities of the day, and actually with people at lower levels of society, that he was making a teaching point, of course, but it was also very clear that he really enjoyed that an awful lot more than consorting with the Pharisees and the Sadducees of his day. And that's what Walter Wink calls the hidden secret of social activists, that not only are you doing something worthwhile, but it's a lot more fun hanging around with folks like you. And in the end, although there are inevitable reverses, success is ultimately assured, isn't it? We have that faith. I was noticing that Joan Chittister was on your program for the next speaker. I'm awfully glad that I'm not following Joan Chittister, but having a chance to go before. But it moved me to share with you something I learned from Joan at a meeting of Reformed Catholics. She was giving a brief introduction at a fundraising breakfast of all places, but Joan can crank into 10 minutes with the kind of wisdom that would take me 3 years to develop by stealing it from others. And this is what she chose to do. She picked a reading from the very first chapter of the first gospel ever written, the Gospel of Mark. And I'd like to just share the 2 paragraphs with you and pretty much relay to you what I believe her major point was. This is Mark 16. While walking by the Sea of Galilee, Jesus saw the brothers Simon and Andrew casting their nets into the sea, since they fished by trade. Jesus said to them, "Follow me, and I'll make you fishers of people." They immediately abandoned their nets and followed Jesus. Proceeding a little further along, Jesus saw the brothers James and John, begot of Zebedee. They too were in their boat, putting their nets in order. Immediately Jesus called to them, and they left their father Zebedee standing in the boat with the hired help, and went off in the company of Jesus. They came to Capernaum, and on the Sabbath Jesus entered the synagogue and began to teach. The people were spellbound by the teaching, because Jesus taught with authority that was unlike their religious scholars. Suddenly a man with an unclean spirit appeared in the synagogue and shrieked, "What do you want from us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." Jesus rebuked the spirit sharply. "Be quiet, come out of that person." At that, the unclean spirit convulsed the possessed one, and violently and with a loud shriek, it came out. And all who looked on were amazed. They began to ask each other, "What is this, a new teaching? And with such authority, this person even gives orders to unclean spirits, and they obey." and immediately news of Jesus spread throughout the surrounding region of Galilee. Now, Joan pointed out that those two passages are very seldom read together, and yet she suggested they belong together. Why? Because what we have here is the introduction to true discipleship. You see Jesus recruiting his first freshmen for his little theology, right? And they're really enthusiastic, and they come in and they're sitting and they're basking in the glow of their new teacher and thinking, well, this is really neat to be associated with this fellow, you know? And then what happens? Evil appears. The man comes in with a possessed spirit. And Jesus has the options, the options we all have. What would happen if that happened in this church? I don't know. But the options seem to be, sir, I have office hours on Thursdays from 2 to 4. Could you please come back then? Or, usher, get this guy out of here. There are any number of ways that Jesus could have reacted, but what did he do? He confronted the evil on the spot. And what was he saying? He was saying to these little freshmen, look, I know that you just enrolled for this course, but I want to tell you right off the bat, no confrontation of evil, no true discipleship. So you could still, register for something else. You won't get incomplete or anything. But if you're going to hang on with me, what you're going to have to do, if you're going to be faithful to me as a disciple, is confront evil when you see it. Now, that's different from what I was taught by the Jesuits at Fordham 100 years ago. That was slightly less than 100. I remember distinctly the first lecture in moral theology or ethics was, it's rather simple. You need to do good and avoid evil. I think that's only half right now. We all need to do good. But we're not called to avoid evil, folks. We're called to confront it. No confrontation of evil, no true discipleship. So I'd like to start out with that because there's a lot to confront these days in our country. And I won't be able to but touch on one or two of them as we go along this morning. What I like to do is talk a little bit about my background in intelligence and then get into whether we can have a moral foreign policy. It happened again as I was sitting in the back. I overheard someone as they came in say, "He doesn't look like a spy." And I never know whether to be crestfallen or really happy about it. I still haven't figured that out, but it is always a sign to me that I need to explain up front a little bit about what the CIA is really all about, because you can't get it from the movies and you can't get it from TV, okay?